September 19th, 1948. 10:47 p.m. Small's Paradise, 2294 7th Avenue. 8 Italian gunmen surround Bumpy Johnson's table, their pistols drawn, hammers cocked. The jazz band stops mid-note. 200 witnesses freeze. Every exit blocked by Lucky Luciano's soldiers. The most powerful mob boss in America has sent his executioners to Harlem's most legendary nightclub. They want Bumpy's heroin territory. They want his political connections. They want him dead or kneeling. Bumpy Johnson sits alone, no weapon visible, no backup in sight. The lead gunman steps forward. His finger tightens on the trigger. What happens next will determine who controls Harlem for the next 20 years. One man sits, 8 men aim. The clock ticks to 10:48, and Bumpy Johnson smiles. 3 weeks earlier, August 27, 1948, Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson controlled Harlem's numbers rackets like a king ruled his kingdom. For 15 years, Head built an empire on intelligence, not just violence. Where other gangsters killed first and thought later, Bumpy studied. He knew every detective's gambling debt, every politician's mistress, every rival's weakness. He employed 300 runners, protected 24 businesses, and commanded respect from 110th Street to 155th. His trademark, a calm voice and a long memory. Men who crossed Bumpy didn't die immediately. They died when it hurt most. Post-war Harlem was a powder keg. Soldiers returned home to no jobs and no respect. The heroin trade exploded. Money flowed like rivers. The Italian mobs watched from downtown, hungry. They'd controlled bootlegging during Prohibition. Now they wanted narcotics. Harlem's black neighborhoods represented territory profitable, organized, ripe for taking. Lucky Luciano had just returned from his Cuba exile. His organization was restructuring, expanding, absorbing. He saw Bumpy's operation as an obstacle, not a partner. The stakes weren't just money, they were sovereignty. If the Italians took Harlem's heroin trade, they'd install their own puppet bosses. Black organized crime would become a footnote. Every independent operator would kneel or bleed. Bumpy represented something bigger than himself. He was Harlem's firewall, and everyone from Small's Paradise to the Cotton Club was watching to see if Head hold. Vincent Chin Malatesta ran Lucky Luciano's expansion operations, 6'3", 240 pounds, 17 confirmed murders. Head earned his nickname by taking a Louisville slugger to a rival's jaw. The man never spoke again. Malatesta controlled the Bronx heroin distribution through sheer brutality. When warehouse workers stole 3 kilos, he burned the warehouse with them inside. 32 families attended 5 funerals. Luciano wanted Harlem. Malatesta wanted the credit. Head studied Bumpy's operation for 6 months. Runner routes, collection schedules, protection payments. He knew Bumpy moved 40,000 weekly through the numbers game. He knew Bumpy met his lieutenants every Thursday at Small's Paradise. He knew Bumpy's weakness was arrogance, the belief that respect could stop bullets. Malatesta saw an aging gangster clinging to outdated rules in a modern underworld. His plan was surgical. Offer Bumpy a partnership, 20 to keep breathing, 80% to the Luciano family. When Bumpy refused and Malatesta knew he would eliminate him publicly. Do it somewhere symbolic, somewhere every Harlem operator would hear about by sunrise. Make it clean, fast, humiliating. Install a lieutenant the same night. The Italian mob had 40 soldiers ready to flood Harlem streets. They had judges bought, precincts paid, and rivals scared. They had everything except Harlem itself. On September 15th, Malatesta sent his message, a cream-colored envelope delivered to Bumpy's brownstone on 135th Street. Inside, one sentence typed on Luciano family letterhead, Thursday, September 19th, Small's Paradise, 10:30 p.m. Business discussion. Come alone. The signature a single fingerprint in blood. Malatesta's calling card. Accept the meeting and negotiate surrender. Refuse and die anyway. Either way, Bumpy's empire ended on Thursday night. Malatesta's plan was elegant in its simplicity. Small's Paradise wasn't neutral ground. It was Bumpy's throne room. Hitting him there would demonstrate that nowhere in Harlem was safe anymore. Malatesta positioned men at every exit 3 hours before the meeting. 2 at the main entrance on 7th Avenue, 2 in the kitchen, 2 by the stage door, 2 more across the street watching windows. The inner Team 6 gunmen dressed in expensive suits would walk in at 10:45, 15 minutes after Bumpy arrived. Head be comfortable, guarded down, probably drinking. They'd surround his usual corner booth. Simple math. 8 against 1. The nightclub glowed amber and gold that Thursday night. 300 bulbs lined the ceiling. Cigarette smoke curled through spotlight beams like ghosts. The 18-piece orchestra played Duke Ellington's Mood Indigo, while 200 patrons drank, laughed, danced. Small's Paradise was Harlem's beating heart red leather booths, mahogany bar stretching 40 feet, gold-framed mirrors reflecting infinite luxury. The air smelled of cognac, perfume, and grilled steaks. Owner Ed Smalls himself tended bar, his white jacket spotless. Table numbers brass-plated. Waiters in black bow ties. At table 7, the corner booth with a view of both doors, Bumpy Johnson sat alone. Dark suit, white shirt, no tie, a glass of Hennessy untouched. At 10:42, the main door opened. Vincent Malatesta entered first, 6'3", impossible to miss. His 5 lieutenants followed: Anthony Knuckles Russo, Sal the Blade Marconi, Tommy DiNapoli, Frankie Carbone, and 2 newcomers whose names nobody knew. Their jackets bulged wrong. Every cop, gangster, and hustler in Small's Paradise recognized the shape of shoulder holsters. The music continued, but conversations died. Dancers slowed. Bartender Ed Small's hand moved toward the phone behind the bar. Malatesta shook his head. Once. Small's hand stopped. At 10:44, they crossed the dance floor, their footsteps synchronized, predators moving as one. Bumpy didn't look up. He traced his finger around the rim of his glass, watching the cognac swirl. The gunmen formed a semicircle around table 7, 3 behind Bumpy, 2 on his left, 3 on his right, blocking sightlines, blocking escape. Knuckles Russo's hand disappeared inside his jacket. The orchestra reached the bridge of Mood Indigo. A trumpet solo soared, then stopped. The band leader saw the guns. At 10:46, silence crashed over Small's Paradise like a wave. No music, no conversation, no clinking glasses. 200 people held their breath. Malatesta leaned forward, both palms on Bumpy's table. His voice carried across the room. "Mr. Johnson, we have business." Bumpy looked up slowly, his expression calm as Sunday morning. "Business is conducted during business hours, Vincent. This is my social time." At 10:47, Malatesta smiled, not friendly. "Mr. Luciano sent me with an offer. 20% of your operation. You breathe. Your people work for us. Refuse and—" He gestured to the 8 armed men. The gesture completed his sentence. Bumpy took a sip of cognac, savored it, swallowed, set the glass down with a soft click. "I heard your offer 2 weeks ago. My answer hasn't changed." The safety clicks echoed. 8 pistols ready to fire. Malatesta's smile vanished. "Last chance, Bumpy." The room held its breath. A woman at table 12 started crying silently. The bartender's hand trembled. Outside, Harlem traffic hummed oblivious, ordinary, continuing. Inside, history balanced on a razor's edge. At 10:48, Bumpy Johnson smiled. What Malatesta didn't know was that Bumpy received his own letter 5 days before the Luciano invitation arrived. September 10th, hand-delivered by a Brooklyn dock worker, inside copies of Malatesta's surveillance reports, Bumpy's schedule, photos of his runners, floor plans of Small's paradise, every detail of the planned hit. The envelope included a note. Chin's getting sloppy. Thought you should know. A friend in low places. The handwriting belonged to Carlo Gambino, Luciano's rival within the family. The mob was cannibalizing itself, and Bumpy was the teeth. For 9 days, Bumpy planned his countermove. September 11th, he visited Judge Edward Patterson at Harlem Hospital, where the judge's daughter recovered from appendicitis. Bumpy donated $5,000 to the children's ward. The judge owed him. September 12th, he met with Captain Walter Morrison, 28th Precinct, at the Lenox Lounge. Morrison's gambling debts totaled $8,000. Bumpy forgave them. Morrison owed him. September 14th, he sat down with Abraham Klein, FBI special agent, in Morningside Park. Klein's son needed a job. Bumpy provided one. Klein owed him. September 18th, the day before the confrontation, Bumpy made his final moves. He had 6 police officers positioned around Small's paradise in unmarked cars. He had FBI surveillance teams recording every Italian mobster entering Harlem. He had Judge Patterson signing arrest warrants for weapons, charges predated to 10 p.m. September 19th. He had newspaper photographers positioned across 7th Avenue with telephoto lenses. And he had the one thing Malatesta never anticipated, a direct phone line to Luciano's lawyer installed in Ed Small's office, ready to ring at exactly 10:49 p.m. At 10:48, as Malatesta's men aimed their guns, Bumpy raised his right hand, snapped his fingers once. The phone rang. Ed Smalls answered it behind the bar. His voice carried across the silent room. "Mr. Johnson, call for Mr. Malatesta. Says it's urgent." From Mr. Luciano's attorney. Malatesta's face went white. Bumpy gestured to the phone. "Answer it, Vincent. Your boss is wondering why 8 of his soldiers are about to get arrested in Harlem with weapons, photographed by FBI surveillance, in violation of his parole agreement with the federal government." Malatesta didn't move. The phone kept ringing. Bumpy continued, his voice soft as velvet. "The police are outside. The FBI is recording. The judge has your warrants. You pull those triggers, and Lucky Luciano goes back to prison for conspiracy to commit murder. So answer the phone." Malatesta walked to the bar like a man walking to the gallows, picked up the receiver, listened. His face transformed anger to fear to disbelief. He spoke 2 words. "Yes, sir." Hung up, turned to his men. "We're leaving." Knuckles Russo hesitated. "But boss," Malatesta's voice cracked like a whip. "Now." As they retreated toward the door, Bumpy called out. "Vincent!" Malatesta stopped. Bumpy pulled an ace of spades from his jacket pocket, laid it on the table. "Next time you come for a king, make sure you understand the game. This is chess. You've been playing checkers." The 8 gunmen filed out into the Harlem night. The door closed. The room exhaled. At 10:52, the orchestra started playing again. Vincent Malatesta never set foot in Harlem again. Lucky Luciano, furious at the amateur operation that nearly violated his parole, demoted Malatesta to collections in Staten Island. Within 6 months, Chin disappeared. Some say Luciano had him killed for incompetence. Others claim he fled to Sicily. Either way, his name became a joke. The man who brought 8 guns to threaten Bumpy Johnson and left with 8 shames. The photographs hit the newspapers on September 21st. Mob confrontation avoided in Harlem nightclub. The FBI opened a file on Luciano family operations in Manhattan. The parole board summoned Lucky for questioning. His lawyers spent 3 weeks explaining why his men happened to be in Harlem that night. Luciano, pragmatic as always, sent word through intermediaries. A peace offering. Bumpy could keep Harlem. Independent operations would remain independent. The Italian families would stick to Lower Manhattan. In exchange, information sharing and mutual respect, Bumpy accepted. The war that could have drowned Harlem in blood ended before it began. Bumpy's legend grew wings that night. The story spread through every bar, barbershop, and street corner. The man who stared down 8 guns and smiled. The operator who turned the mob's strength into weakness. Young hustlers studied his moves like scripture. By October, Bumpy controlled not just the numbers, but also the narrative. He was untouchable not because of violence, but because of vision. Smart gangsters made deals. Brilliant gangsters made history. Bumpy Johnson made both. September 19, 1948, became a dividing line in organized crime. Before that night, the Italian mob believed they could take anything through force. After, they learned that power without intelligence was just noise. Bumpy proved what black gangsters had been saying for decades: respect earned through strategy beats fear earned through bullets. His confrontation with Malatesta established the template for territorial negotiations between black and Italian syndicates for the next 20 years. Harlem remained sovereign ground. What made Bumpy different wasn't his courage. Plenty of men had courage. It was his patience. While other gangsters hoarded guns, Bumpy collected debts and favors. He understood that judges, cops, and federal agents were more valuable than soldiers. He played the long game in a business of short fuses. His philosophy was simple: any fool can start a war. It takes intelligence to win without fighting. That night at Small's Paradise, he proved it. The guns were real, the threat was real, but the power was illusion. Real power came from knowing who owed you, who needed you, and who feared losing more than you did. The lesson echoes beyond 1948. Beyond Harlem, beyond organized crime. True power isn't about force, it's about positioning. It's about seeing 3 moves ahead while your enemy sees one. It's about turning their strength into your weapon. Bumpy Johnson won that night because he understood something timeless. The smartest man in the room rarely needs to raise his voice. He just needs to know when to. Snap his fingers. If this story showed you why Bumpy Johnson was the most intelligent gangster in Harlem's history, hit that subscribe button. Drop a like if you respect the power of strategy over violence. Comment below, what would you have done with 8 guns pointed at your head? Next week, we're diving into the night Bumpy Johnson walked into the Cotton Club and made Dutch Schultz's entire crew disappear without firing a single shot. You won't want to miss it.